There are 7 things a healthy person over 70 should still be able to do. Most people cannot do all 7. And the hard part is that they have absolutely no idea which ones they are already losing right now. While you are sitting exactly where you are, something quiet is happening inside your body, something the system was not designed to catch. Your last checkup measured your blood pressure, your cholesterol, maybe your thyroid. But here is what it almost certainly did not measure: whether you can stand up from a chair without grabbing the armrest, whether you can hold your balance on one leg for 10 seconds, whether the strength in your hands is quietly telling a story that nobody is reading. The system gives your doctor 7 minutes. 7 minutes to cover your medications, your lab results, your refills, your referrals. And in those 7 minutes, the quiet signals slip right through. Every single time. I have spent decades in this work. And the single thing that separates the people who stay strong and independent into their 80s and 90s from the ones who slowly give that independence away is almost never the labs. It is almost never the diagnosis on their chart. It is these 7 things. Today, you are going to find out exactly where you stand, and I promise you this. Every single one of these things, every one, can be improved. At any age, starting today. Before you begin, I want you to do one thing. Drop your age in the comments right now. Just the number, nothing else. It helps me understand exactly who I am talking to. And stay with me for the very end, because sign number 1, the one I have saved for last, is the one that has surprised me more than anything else in all my years of practice. It is not what you think. Now, let me introduce you to someone before you start. Sandra is 67 years old, a retired postal worker from Virginia. She carried mail bags through rain and heat for 30 years. She thought she was strong. She thought she knew her body. Then one afternoon, she tried to get up quickly from her living room couch when the phone rang. She grabbed the armrest, both hands, pushed hard, made it up, and something in her stomach dropped. She came to see me the following week, said she felt fine on paper, but she knew something had changed. She just did not know what or how much. I am going to come back to Sandra several times today, because her story is one that I have seen repeat itself dozens of times. And by the time you hear how it ends, you will understand exactly why these 7 things matter as much as they do. Let us begin. Sign number 7, rising from a chair without your hands. Here is what most physicians simply do not have time to explain in a standard appointment. And I mean that without blame. The system makes it nearly impossible. The ability to stand up from a seated position using only your legs is not a parlor trick. It is a direct measurement of what researchers call lower limb muscle power. And lower limb muscle power is one of the most powerful predictors of fall risk, hospitalization risk, and long-term independence that medicine has ever identified. A study published in the Journal of the American Geriatric Society followed adults over the age of 65 and found that those who could not perform a chair stand test without arm assistance were 2.4 times more likely to experience a serious fall in the following 12 months. 2.4 times. Think about what that means. Not 20% more likely, not 50%, 2.4 times. And here is the mechanism that makes this so important. Stay with me for just a moment, because this is the part that changes everything. After the age of 60, the body begins losing something called type 2 muscle fibers at an accelerating rate. Think of type 2 fibers as the fast twitch responders in your legs. They are not the fibers you use for slow walking. They are the fibers that fire in an emergency. A stumble on the porch step, a moment of instability on wet pavement, a sudden shift in weight when reaching for something on a shelf. Without those fibers, your legs can still carry you across a room, but they cannot catch you when you need them to. And here's what nobody tells you when you leave the examination room. The loss is not inevitable. It responds to training in a way that still astonishes me. Right now, if you are sitting in a chair, I want you to try something with me. Fold your arms across your chest. Do not touch the armrests. Do not push off your knees. Using only the strength in your legs, stand all the way up. Sit back down, slowly and controlled. How did that feel? If you rose smoothly without rocking, without searching for support, that is a genuinely meaningful sign. Your legs are still doing their job. Protect that. And if you needed your hands, if you rocked forward 2 or 3 times before you made it up, listen to me carefully. That is not a sentence. That is not your fate. That is information. And information you can act on starting tomorrow. Here is the protocol. Nothing complicated. Nothing that requires a gym membership or expensive equipment. Before each meal, 3 times a day, do 5 chair stands, arms crossed, slow on the way down, controlled and deliberate. That is 15 repetitions a day. In 3 weeks, most people notice a real difference. Not a little difference, a meaningful one. I watched a patient in her mid-80s, someone who had been using both hands and a count of 3 to get herself out of a chair for 2 years, stand up clean and easy 6 weeks after starting this. 6 weeks. Her daughter was in the room. Both of them cried. The body is more willing to come back than you have been told. Now, back to Sandra. She tried the chair stands that first week. She managed 3 repetitions before reaching for the armrest. She was frustrated. She told me she felt like she was failing a test she should have passed easily. I told her what I am going to tell you right now. Nobody passes a test they have never been given. The goal is not to pass. The goal is to practice. On day 8, she sent me a message. 5 chair stands, no hands. She wrote. I actually cried. That is where Sandra's story begins. But I need to take you to sign number 6 now, because this one disappears even more quietly than the last. And when it goes, you often do not know it until a single moment changes everything. Sign number 6, balancing on one leg. Before you try this, I need you to hear one thing first. Do not do this test in the middle of an open room. Stand next to something solid, a kitchen counter, the back of a heavy chair, a sturdy table, something you can grab in an instant if you need to. If you feel genuinely unsteady today, just watch. There is no grade here, no shame, just information. Ready? Hover your hand near that surface. Lift 1 foot a few inches off the floor. Hold it there. Count to 10 in your head. Switch sides. How did it feel? Now let me tell you what that 10 seconds is actually measuring. Your ability to balance on one leg is governed by a system called proprioception. Think of proprioception as your body's internal GPS. It is the constant real-time conversation happening between your joints, your muscles, your inner ear, and your brain. It tells you where your body is in space. Without that conversation, without those rapid adjustments, you are navigating in the dark. After 60, the signals in that system begin to slow. The communication takes longer. The responses become fractionally delayed. And that fraction of a second, that is where falls happen. A study from Johns Hopkins University that followed adults over the age of 70 found that those who could not hold a single leg balance for at least 10 seconds had a significantly elevated rate of hip fractures over the subsequent 3 years. Hip fractures, not bruises, not sprained ankles. Hip fractures are one of the leading predictors of nursing home admission and mortality in adults over 70. I have sat with patients after a hip fracture, looked at the X-ray, and thought about the wet bathroom floor or the corner of the rug that started it all. A moment that lasted less than 1 second. But here's what makes sign number 6 different from almost everything else on this list. Balance comes back faster than almost anything else. The protocol is almost embarrassingly simple, but the research behind it is solid. While you are brushing your teeth, morning and night, stand on 1 foot. That is it. Just hold the counter the first few days. Ease your grip as you feel steadier. By week 3, most people can let go entirely. This practice reactivates the proprioceptive pathways. It tells the nervous system, this conversation is still necessary. Keep the connection strong. 4 weeks of this, 2 minutes a day. That is all the research requires to see a meaningful difference in single leg stability. And here is why that 2 minutes is worth protecting. Staying on your own 2 feet is not just about avoiding injury. It is about everything that comes with being upright and independent. Your kitchen, your garden, your front porch, the life you have built. A fraction of a second of better balance is the difference between catching yourself and not catching yourself. Sandra started the single leg practice on day 3. She told me she felt ridiculous at first. Standing at her kitchen sink like a flamingo, she said. I told her flamingos have excellent longevity for birds. She laughed, and she kept going. Now let me take you to sign number 5. This one surprised me the first time I really understood its significance, because it has nothing obvious to do with the system you would expect. Sign number 5, grip strength. Think about the last time you opened a tight jar. Maybe pasta sauce, maybe pickles. Did it come right off? Or did you run it under hot water, tap it on the counter, or quietly hand it to someone nearby? I am not asking to embarrass you. I am asking because your grip strength is a window into something far larger than your hands. Researchers at the Medical Research Council tracked over 5,300 adults for more than 20 years. For every 5 kilograms of decline in grip strength, the risk of cardiovascular mortality increased by 17%. Not 5%, not 10%, 17. And 5 kilograms is less than 11 pounds. Here is the mechanism that matters. Grip strength reflects the overall integrity of your musculoskeletal system. Muscles, tendons, connective tissue, bone density, they all contribute to how firmly your hand can close. When the system is healthy everywhere, grip stays strong. When it is declining, grip signals it first. Think of it this way. Your hand is the furthest point from your heart. It receives the weakest blood flow. It relies on the most peripheral nerve connections. If the system is healthy at the extremity, it is almost certainly healthy closer to the center. When grip fades, something upstream is changing. Now, the good news. Grip is one of the most trainable functions in the human body, at any age. Keep a soft rubber ball near your chair. Squeeze it for 2 minutes while you watch television. Every day. Carry your own groceries when you can. Open your own jars, even when it is a struggle, especially when it is a struggle. And this is something I feel strongly about. Do not let well-meaning family members take this work away from you. I understand the love behind it. A son who rushes to carry the bags. A daughter who opens every jar before you can try. They are taking care of you. That instinct is beautiful. But every time someone else does this for you, a quiet message gets sent to your body. The message is, this capacity is no longer needed, and your body believes it. A specific note on drug interactions. If you are on blood thinners like warfarin or daily aspirin therapy, start with soft resistance only for grip exercises. Minor hand injuries can bleed more than expected. Mention this to your doctor before adding resistance work. Back to Sandra. By week 3 of her chair stand practice, Sandra started carrying her own packages up to her second-floor apartment. She had been leaving them downstairs for days at a time, waiting for a neighbor to help. That week, she carried 3 boxes up in one trip. She called me to tell me. Her voice had something in it that I recognized. It is the voice people get when they realize the body they thought was gone has been waiting for them. But I need to take you forward now. Because sign number 4 is one that doctors measure, and still somehow manage to talk around in ways that miss the most important point entirely. Sign number 4, a steady, strong walk. In geriatric medicine, walking speed is called the 6th vital sign. Heart rate, blood pressure, temperature, respiratory rate, oxygen saturation. Those are the first 5. They trigger alarms. They change treatment plans. Walking speed belongs in that category. A landmark meta-analysis published in the Journal of the American Medical Association pooled data from 9 studies involving more than 34,000 adults over 65, followed for an average of 12 years. The finding: every 0.1 meter per second increase in walking speed was associated with 12% lower mortality. 12% per incremental increase. Your walk is simultaneously a report card for your cardiovascular system, your lungs, your muscle strength, your balance, and your neurological coordination. All of those systems expressing themselves at once. Here is your honest self-check. Next time you walk across a parking lot, or even down your hallway right now, notice 2 things. First, your breath. Can you maintain pace and still hold a conversation? Not gasping. Not slowing to catch up with your own lungs. Second, your steps. Do they feel sure and deliberate? Or do you find yourself shortening your stride, watching the floor more than usual? If your walk feels strong and your breath stays easy, protect that. And if you have noticed slowing over the past few years, getting winded sooner, shuffling where you used to stride, take that seriously. But hear me on this. Walking speed is one of the most reversible declines on this entire list. 5 minutes a day is a beginning. Walk to the mailbox. Walk to the corner. Add a minute each week. If your knees or weather keep you inside, march gently in place at the kitchen counter. The location is irrelevant. The movement is the medicine. One important note: if breathing during even light walking feels genuinely labored, if there is tightness or heaviness in your chest, mention that to your doctor at your next visit. That pattern is worth investigating. The expectation setter for walking: week 1, your legs will feel it. That soreness is the body responding. Week 2, your pace starts feeling more natural, less effortful. Week 3, most people find they are going further without thinking about it. Week 4, this is the breakthrough week. The walk stops feeling like exercise. It starts feeling like simply moving through the world. Most people who quit in week 2. Do not be most people. Sandra started walking to her neighbor Margaret's apartment and back, 8 minutes round trip, every morning before breakfast. She said, "I started because you told me to. I kept going because it made me feel like myself again." That is the whole point. Now, let me shift to something that belongs in a different category from the first 4. Signs 7 through 4 are about what your body can do. Signs 3, 2, and 1 are about what happens while your body rests and what gives your body its reason to keep going. Sign number 3, real restorative sleep. Here is the first thing I want to say clearly. The changes in sleep that come with age are not the enemy. Sleeping lighter than you used to, waking once or twice in the night, rising earlier, going to bed earlier. That is not pathology. That is the natural shift in sleep architecture as the body ages. It is normal. Expected. What should concern you is something else entirely. Do you wake up feeling like the night actually did something for you? Because while you sleep, your body is working. Muscle tissue is being repaired, blood pressure regulated, the inflammatory response from the day before quieted, and your brain does something during deep sleep that still genuinely moves me. It washes itself. There is a system called the glymphatic system. Think of it as a drainage network that runs through brain tissue. During wakefulness, it is largely inactive. During deep sleep, it opens fully. Cerebrospinal fluid flushes through the spaces between neurons, clearing out metabolic waste. One of the primary waste products being cleared is beta amyloid. That is the protein associated with Alzheimer's disease. Deep sleep is not a luxury. Deep sleep is one of the primary mechanisms by which your brain protects itself. A study from the University of Rochester found that the glymphatic system is approximately 60% more active during sleep than during wakefulness. 60%. Here is your honest self-check. On most mornings, do you wake up feeling restored? Or do you drag yourself out of bed exhausted, no matter how long you were lying there? If your sleep is restorative, guard it. Consistent bedtime, cool and dark room, morning light within 30 minutes of waking. That last one resets the circadian clock, tells your body what time it is, which tells it when to prepare for sleep that night. Limit caffeine after 2 in the afternoon. Your body metabolizes it more slowly now. What cleared your system at 50 may still be circulating at 3 in the morning. If your nights have become genuinely restless, if you wake at 3 and cannot drift back, do not simply accept that as the price of aging. Most of those patterns have specific, addressable causes. And if you snore heavily and wake up exhausted regardless of how long you sleep, mention that to your doctor. That pattern can indicate sleep apnea, a treatable condition, highly worth investigating. Note on medications. Several common drugs can significantly disrupt sleep in adults over 60. Beta blockers can suppress melatonin. Certain antihistamines and OTC sleep aids can cause paradoxical agitation in older adults. Diuretics taken in the evening create unnecessary nighttime trips to the bathroom. If you are on any of these and sleep is struggling, that conversation with your doctor is worth having. Sandra had been waking at 3:30 every morning for 2 years. She thought it was just age. When I asked about her caffeine habits, she mentioned a cup of tea with dinner most evenings. Just 1 cup. Ceylon tea contains roughly 45 milligrams of caffeine. In a 67-year-old whose metabolism for caffeine has slowed, that cup can have a meaningful half-life at midnight. She moved her last cup of tea to noon. Within 3 weeks, she was waking at 5:15 instead of 3:30. She told me she had forgotten what it felt like to wake up, actually wanting to get out of bed. Now I need to take you somewhere that most people do not expect to end up in a video about physical aging, because signs 7 through 3 were about the body. Sign number 2 is about the mind. Sign number 2, a sharp, curious mind. 3 honest questions. Answer them just to yourself. Can you follow a conversation and remember what was said an hour later? Can you recall the names of people you have recently met most of the time? And this one, the one I care most about. Are you still learning new things? Before you answer, let me clear something up. Forgetting where you left your glasses, walking into a room and blanking on why. Losing a name mid-sentence that you know. That happens at every age. A sharp, busy 50-year-old does it regularly. It is not a warning sign. It is the normal cost of a brain managing enormous amounts of information every single day. What the research actually identifies as predictive is not occasional forgetting. It is whether you are still curious. Here is what the science now confirms, and it reverses what medicine believed for most of the last century. Your brain can form new neural connections for your entire life. The idea that the aging brain is fixed and finished, that neuroplasticity belongs only to the young, has been overtaken by evidence. A landmark study published in Nature Neuroscience demonstrated that the human hippocampus, the brain's primary memory center, continues to generate new neurons in adulthood. This process persists well into old age in healthy individuals. But here is the condition the research is very clear about. New neural growth requires stimulation. A brain that is not being challenged is not being protected. A study from the Rush Alzheimer's Disease Center followed over 1,300 older adults for 20 years. Those with higher levels of cognitive activity had a significantly slower rate of cognitive decline than those who did not regularly engage their minds. Not a modest difference, a substantial one. Cognitive activity means using your mind to do something that requires actual effort, not passive television. Not familiar routines done on autopilot. Learning something new. Solving something unfamiliar. Engaging with an idea that makes you think. Here is your honest self-check. In the last 30 days, did you learn anything genuinely new? A recipe you had never made. A card game you had never played. The name and story of a new person. A skill that required practice before it felt natural. If the answer is no, that is not a failure. That is an invitation. The bar is lower than you think. One new thing per week maintains active cognitive stimulation. One thing, not a degree program, not a language course. One unfamiliar thing each week that makes your brain work a little harder than the day before. A new word and its history. A different route to the grocery store. The rules of a game you have always seen but never learned. A song you want to learn to hum. Something small. Something real. Something unfamiliar. Now, I want to tell you about something that happened with Sandra that I did not expect. 4 months into her chair stands, her balance work, her morning walks, she saw a pottery class advertised at the community center. She had not worked with her hands creatively since her children were small. She signed up. The first 3 sessions, she told me, she made nothing recognizable. Her hands did not know what to do with the clay. She felt awkward, slow. She went back anyway. By week 6, she had made a bowl that her daughter keeps on her kitchen counter. Her daughter called me, not to report anything medical, just to say, my mother seems 10 years younger. She remembers everything during their conversations. She calls to share what she learned at class. I want you to understand what happened there. Physical movement and novelty-seeking learning activate overlapping neural circuits. The pathways that support motor learning also support memory consolidation and executive function. The body and the brain are not separate systems aging on separate timelines. They are one system. What is good for one is almost always good for the other. Sandra's pottery class was exercise for her brain. Her morning walks were medicine for her mind. If you take one thing from this conversation that you can actually do today, let it be this. Pick one thing to learn this week. One unfamiliar thing. Not because it has to be impressive. Because every time you reach for something new, you are sending the most important message your brain can receive. The message is, I still need you to build. And the brain builds. Now let me bring you to sign number 1. I promised at the beginning that I saved the most important for last, and the one that the system is least equipped to address. Before I get there, if this has been useful to you, hit the like button right now. It tells the platform this information is worth showing to someone who has not found it yet. And some of those people need it very badly. Sign number 1. Purpose and connection. I need you to take this seriously, not as soft advice, not as feel-good philosophy, as biology. Harvard University's study of adult development is the longest continuously running study of human health and happiness ever conducted. More than 700 people. Over 80 years. The finding that emerged above everything else was this. The quality of your close relationships is a more powerful predictor of physical health in late life than cholesterol levels. More powerful than exercise habits. More powerful than genetics. People who reported warm, connected relationships at the age of 50 were the healthiest at 80. Let that sit for a moment. Here is the mechanism. Chronic loneliness elevates cortisol. Chronically elevated cortisol suppresses immune function, increases systemic inflammation, disrupts sleep architecture, and accelerates cellular aging. These are measurable biological changes. A meta-analysis published in Perspectives on Psychological Science analyzed data from over 3 million people across 148 studies. Social isolation increased the risk of premature death by 26%. 26%. Comparable, in the research literature, to smoking approximately 15 cigarettes per day. Loneliness is not an emotional experience that happens to have physical side effects. Loneliness is a physiological state that the body registers as a threat. And by your 70s and 80s, life has taken people from you. A spouse, old friends, colleagues you saw every day for 30 years. The ordinary fabric of daily connection that held your week together. The world grows quieter, and the 7-minute appointment has no prescription for that. I want to tell you about a man named Frank. Frank represents a pattern I have seen more times than I can count. He is 73 years old. A retired steelworker from Virginia. He lost his wife of 46 years on a Tuesday in November. The weeks after that, I was genuinely worried about him. His blood pressure, which had been well controlled for years, climbed to 164/92. His sleep collapsed. He lost 11 pounds in 6 weeks without trying. I adjusted his medications. I monitored him closely. I referred him to counseling. And then something happened that had nothing to do with anything I prescribed. His neighbor, a woman who had also lost her spouse the year before, started knocking on his door on Wednesday mornings. She brought coffee. They sat on his porch, an hour each week. 2 people and 2 cups of coffee and the ordinary conversation of being alive. 6 weeks later, Frank's blood pressure was 138/82. The best it had been in 4 years. His sleep was returning. His weight stabilized. He told me, "I forgot what it felt like to have somewhere to be." Somewhere to be. That is not soft. That is not incidental. That is one of the most clinically significant changes I have ever watched happen. Because here is what the research tells us about purpose, specifically, separate from connection. A study published in Psychological Science followed over 6,000 adults with an average age of 66 for over 14 years. It measured what researchers call purpose in life, the sense that your life has direction, meaning, and things worth getting up for. The people with the strongest sense of purpose were significantly less likely to die during the follow-up period than those with the weakest sense of purpose, even after controlling for physical health status, even after controlling for depression and anxiety. Purpose was independently protective, and here's what made that finding even more interesting to me. Purpose did not have to be grand. It did not have to be a cause or a mission or a legacy project. It could be a garden that needed tending, a neighbor who expected a weekly visit, a grandchild who called to ask a question you were the only one who could answer, a volunteer shift at a library or food pantry where people looked up when you walked in. The common element was not scale. The common element was that something needed you. And by needing you, it gave you a reason to need yourself. I know that for many of you watching this is the hardest part of this entire conversation. Not the chair stands, not the balance work. Those are physical things you can begin tomorrow. This one is different, because by your 70s and 80s, reaching out can feel frightening in a way it did not used to. Years of quiet make the first step feel enormous. And grief has a way of making the idea of new connection feel like a kind of disloyalty to what was lost. I want you to hear something clearly. You are not being asked to replace what you lost. You are being asked to let your life remain inhabited. Start smaller than you think you need to. 1 phone call this week. Not to say anything important. Just to hear a voice that knows yours. Say yes to 1 invitation you would normally decline, even if you do not feel like it, especially if you do not feel like it. Find 1 thing that gives your week a shape. A walk at the same time every morning, a plant you tend, a neighbor you check on, a class at the community center, a standing appointment, even one you make up entirely. That means there is somewhere you are expected to be. Give 1 hour somewhere that people are glad you arrived. Connection is a muscle, and it responds exactly the way the other muscles on this list do. 1 small, deliberate effort at a time. Now let me complete Sandra's story, because I have been returning to her throughout this conversation for a reason. 6 months after that first appointment, Sandra was doing her chair stands before every meal. She was standing on one leg at her kitchen sink while she washed dishes. She was carrying her own packages. She was walking to Margaret's apartment every morning. She had cut her evening tea. And she was going to pottery twice a week. But here's the part she told me at her 6-month follow-up that I was not expecting. She said, "I have friends at pottery. Real ones. I know their children's names. I know who had a hard week. They know mine." And then she said something I have thought about many times since. She said, "I used to think I was in a good season of life, but I was just quiet." I confused quiet with okay. She is not quiet anymore. And her blood work at 6 months? Every marker had improved. Her resting heart rate, her inflammatory markers, her blood pressure, which had crept up over the previous 2 years, came back down on its own, without a medication change. I am not telling you Sandra's story as a miracle. I am telling you her story as a pattern, because I have seen it repeat in different names, different cities, different conditions, more times than I can count. The body responds to being called on. All of it, every part. Now let me bring everything together. 7 signs: rising from a chair, holding your balance, the strength in your grip, the quality of your walk, the depth of your sleep, a mind that stays curious and keeps learning, and a life that includes other people with purpose enough to pull you forward. Here's what I want you to take from today. If you moved through most of these and felt genuine confidence, take that seriously. You are aging better than the vast majority of people your age, and that is not luck. That is not entirely genetics either. That is the result of things you have been doing consistently, even if you did not know that is what they were for. Keep doing them. Protect them. And if you struggled with 3 or 4 or more of these, if several of them landed in a way that felt uncomfortably accurate, please hear this. This is not bad news. This may be the best information you have received in a long time, because every single one of these 7 things responds to attention. Every one. You did not come here today because you have given up. You came here because something in you still wants to do this well. That part of you is right, and it is more than enough to begin. Pick the one that felt most urgent to you. Just one. The smallest version of it that you could start tomorrow. Not Monday. Not after the holidays. Not after you feel more ready. Tomorrow. Type the word one in the comments right now. If you made it this far, you have already shown that you have what this takes. And type the name of the one sign you are going to start with. I read every single comment. I want to know. Then share this video with one person. Not with everyone on your list. One person. Your sister. A friend you have been thinking about. A neighbor who lives alone. Someone you love who would benefit from hearing this. Not because I need the views. Because that person may need this today and does not know how to find it. Next week, I want to tell you about something that changed how I think about almost everything covered today. There is one specific window of time each day, a window most people completely ignore, where the benefit of everything you just learned is either multiplied or wasted. A study that followed over 14,000 adults for 9 years found that what you do in this particular time window had a larger effect on long-term health outcomes than any single lifestyle factor measured separately. The findings go against most of the conventional wisdom you have heard. I will see you next week. And remember this, do not let anyone tell you it is too late, because it is not. Your body is waiting. Your mind is waiting. And somewhere out there, someone is waiting for you to show up too. Take care of yourself. I mean that.